Good morning. So you just saw some pictures of the SIG Smith Miniplane and some of the things that I've done to it. It was a Christmas gift to me from a very awesome man and friend, subscriber, Dave. So in those images you saw that I went through and I took the bottom wing off, did my normal inspection of an airplane, but I also chose to take the engine off because I like to run engines. Now when that's going to get done, I'm not entirely sure, because now it's mid-December, there's snow on the ground, it's cold, and I really just don't know when I'm going to get a chance to run it. There is an outside chance that I might do a run with that engine in the garage, but I can't make any promises on that. So in the process of going through that airplane, I was wondering, what I needed to do to actually get it airworthy, or at least something that I could fly. And I noticed that there was a Futaba receiver in there that David installed, and it looked like it was a newer style receiver. So that tells me that all the servos have Futaba J-style connectors. That is not compatible with the transmitter I currently have right now, which is Spectrum, I believe it's a 6DX6E, something like that. Nice transmitter, and I have used it to fly an airplane before. I think I've used it on my real flight simulator for sure. So I was thinking, well, I could just pull that receiver out, which is what I did, pull the battery pack out because I know that's not going to be any good. And I could just spend up to $75 or more if I wanted on a receiver to put in place of that, a modern receiver that I could use the Spectrum transmitter on. But then I started thinking, you know what? Why don't we see if we can go old school with this thing? For several reasons. I went searching, and it took no time at all, believe it or not, and I found something really cool and exciting, which is really the subject of this video. I thought I would go old school and find an old radio system, an old 72 megahertz radio system that I could actually put in this airplane. Now I'm not entirely sure if Winnebago RC flyers allow old 72 megahertz systems at their field. I'm certain somebody from that club will watch this and let me know, otherwise I'll just contact them and find out. But anyway, I went off and I bought $75 worth of new radio, and that's the subject of this video. So on the table here you will see is a ancient, I say ancient, I think this thing dates back to 1996, and we can confirm that here again. Futaba radio. Now this was like a radio system that I got when I got into the hobby, and that's another reason I wanted to show this particular type of system, is because those of you that are new into the hobby, or the younger ones, you've probably never seen a radio system like this before, because this is back in the day when they actually made real radio systems, not you buy a transmitter and then you have to buy all this other stuff separately. Anyway, let's just get on to it. So this I found on eBay, and I think I paid $47 for the contents of this box. Now this box has seen its better days, and it is very rough. Very rough. In fact, it may fall apart right now. But you will see that this is pretty damn complete. It has, I don't know why it would have this servo card in here. That is not something that typically, well, maybe that is something that came with these, because my very first radio was a Futaba Attack 4 4-channel radio. This too is a 4-channel radio, but it comes with this instruction sheet, warranty card, diagram that shows you how to plug things in. Back in this day, these radio systems came complete. Came with batteries, came with chargers, came with the receiver, servo, and all the other servos, and all the other things that many of you have probably never seen before, which is the hope anyway. So here is what an old school radio used to look like in those days. You open it up and you're like, this is almost as good as opening up an engine. I mean, it was pretty close. So you see they've got the 4 servos that are included, and all of these things, in my opinion, are brand new. Now this radio is missing some components, which is not a big deal because what's missing is not a huge deal to me. But I was looking at this in the ad, and there are just some telltale signs that tell me that this has never been used. all of the servo control horns, screws, and everything look like. There's 3. Should be another. It looks like there's. Oh wait, here's another one. So there should be 1 for each servo. A bag of parts with different servo wheels, screws, grommets, and all that. So there's 4, 1 for each servo. So that is good. We've got 4 Futaba S148 servos, which back in the day, these are really good servos. And it looks like this is how old this thing is. All of this foam has adhered itself to this. And here's the receiver. It looks like they've got 3 of the things plugged in there. Now, one of the things that told me, let me pull these things out here real quick so I can get it closer up to the camera. One of the things that told me that this was new in the box still was that this antenna is still coiled up as it would have been from the factory. And yes, these do have pluggable crystals in them. So this was, seeing this was the key thing to me that told me that this was an untouched new radio system. Now, am I taking a risk here? Yes. I'm taking a huge risk by using 30-plus-year-old electronic components, but, you know, what's life without a little risk? Now, on here, back in those days, there was this thing called the 1991 certification narrowband. Let's pull this up here. Oh, maybe you can see it, where it says 1991. That was one of those things, and I think they had a couple of different certifications, like a dual, I don't recall now, but that was a big thing to look for back then, was this 1991 certification for, I guess, certifying the frequency range or the accuracy. So that's interesting. So this is a 72 megahertz system. This is channel 44, which is a wonderful thing now, because when I was flying back in the 80s and 90s, everybody had this type of system, and you'd have people that had multiple, you know, you'd have people that were sharing the same frequency, so you had these frequency boards, and you had to put your ticket up there and wait for your frequency to be open and not somebody's not using it so you could go fly. Now nowadays with all the new transmitters and stuff, you don't have to do that. But that's the beauty of using a 72 megahertz system now, is because I still don't have to do that, because there was not a whole lot of people using these things. So it's like I would never have to wait for anybody to free up my channel anyway. Nobody's flying on this frequency anymore, for the most part. So the other thing you get in here is you get a switch harness with a switch. And something that I just absolutely love, and this is probably going to blow many people away, you got this. This is called a servo tray. What is a servo tray? Well, it's a place where you actually install your servos and then put this into your airplane. Yes, this was back in the day when people actually built airplanes. And I'm telling you, with all the airplanes I built, having a servo tray made life so much easier, because you could just put all your servos in there, put your switch in there, if that was a good location for it, if you could access it, and then just drop this thing in there and put your rails in there, and you're done. It was great. And then of course you also had a servo box that would go in your wing too. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you just don't see anymore. And of course this, the frequency flags that you put on a long antenna. So let's pull out this transmitter. So the things that are missing from this are the charger, battery charger, because it would come with a battery charger that had 2 leads on it, one to charge your receiver pack and one to charge your transmitter pack. So those things are missing. The battery pack is missing and the charger is missing. Now here is what an old school transmitter looked like. This is a 4-channel. You got your servo reversing switches down here. You did your non-digital trims. These are analog trims. I don't know if you can hear them. That one feels kind of loose. What is that? That's throttle. That one feels kind of loose. That has good clicking. That feels right. All of those things feel right. Now I can turn this on, but you're not going to see anything happen because this NiCad batteries that were used back then are completely gone. So in my mind, I had this brilliant idea. Obviously I'm gonna have to buy new batteries for this system, which I did. I found an awesome eBay vendor that actually is in Wisconsin, so these came really quickly. So these are the packs that I got. Transmitter pack, receiver pack. Obviously a heck of a lot better than the packs in those days, because I think what was provided back then was, they were NiCads first of all, they were probably only like 600 milliamp hour battery packs. These are 2600 milliamp hour packs, both. So I could probably fly 3 or 4 sessions on a charge. But the one thing that I did forget about, which was kind of came as a bit of a shock to me, was I thought, well, I just pull this battery out and plug this one in, everything will be great. Well, not so fast. So here's the battery pack, and I have pulled this out, so hopefully it won't fight me too much here. But you'll see there's one issue here. It's not a plug. It's not plugged in. It's actually, this battery pack is actually soldered to the main board. Well, so I was like, well, crap, that kind of sucks. So I had to come up with some ingenious idea, which really wasn't all that ingenious. This battery pack actually came with this harness, which is like one of those car type harnesses, but the kicker is that it has this plug on it. So what I'm going to do, and of course in all the things that I didn't keep and got rid of and sold or whatever when I did my move, I no longer have a soldering iron. So I was like, oh crap, I don't want to go buy a $20 soldering iron for one solder job. Sure, I could have found one from a local club member, but then there's the coordination of trying to get a soldering iron, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well shit, what am I going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is, and I may end up actually having to take this battery, this cover off of this thing, because as you can see here, hopefully you can see here, there's not a whole lot of space in here. This thing was a perfect fit. It was a perfect fit. There's no space available for extra wire or connector fitment like this. So I may end up having to take this rear cover off carefully, and I'm going to cut these wires. And I'm going to cut this wire, probably here, to give me plenty of length, and I'm going to solder this pigtail to here. And that'll provide me the connection I need. Now the thing is, I may end up having to cut out some of the plastic here to facilitate the extra wire to secure it and the connectors. But I'm thinking, well, how am I going to solder it? So I looked online and I found these things, which is solder seal wire connections. And I think this kit was like $9. So I was like, no big deal. I'll pay $9, and it has these little sleeves, these are the smallest ones in there. These little sleeves that have a little round bead of solder there. So all I got to do is strip the wires of those, slide them or twist them together, clean the copper, make sure the copper is really clean, slide it together, and then just use my heat gun, and voila, I've got a soldered connection that actually has heat shrink tubing built into it. So that was my solution for that. So that is what is going to be happening with this. Even right now I don't have that jimmied in there enough to get that in. So there's just really no spare real estate in there at all. So I'm going to have to I'll have to take this rear cover off and cut some of this out so that I can make room for these connectors. Because I know I even had a hard time trying to get this thing back on here because it wasn't perfect. Anyway, so that is an old school radio system that I hope I can use and get functioning, and hope, obviously I'll do a range check on it, do several range checks on it to make sure that it looks like it will be operational. Now, if it fails range checks, well, that could kind of suck, because then I may have just invested in something that's really nothing more than something to look at. But that's okay. It's all well and good. I like these old school systems. Now, the other thing I'd like to show you here, since I've got it on the table, is that Smith Miniplane came with pretty much a brand new Sato 56 engine. And Dave told me that the whole airplane and this engine might have 5-6 runs on it. A few on the bench for break-in and then 2 or 3 in flight. So this engine is basically brand new. It probably wouldn't even be considered broken in. This is a prop that actually came off the Miniplane. It's a 12/6 wood. But I was shocked that I don't know how Dave actually, if he put any after run oil in this or not, I don't know, but I was really shocked at how smooth the bearings feel on this, and it doesn't feel like it needs to be looked at on the inside at all. It feels like it should just be run. I mean, throttle is free, everything moves freely, it's got really good compression. So this is why I wanted to pull this thing off. Now the other thing that I'm going to do here eventually too, which I have not done yet, is I plan on pulling the fuel tank out of the airplane. When it comes to when it comes to getting an old plane like that that's been sitting for years, I will probably never ever really trust the fuel tank or the lines. So that's one of the things I'll definitely be replacing also. I just haven't pulled it out yet. Messing with a fuel tank and a built engine or a built airplane is really kind of a pain, and it sucks to do, but it's necessary. In my mind anyway. I don't want to, because this is a cowled engine, and you just don't want to leave anything to chance when it comes to that. So what I will end up doing is replacing that fuel tank, running the engine on a stand, and then putting the engine back on the plane, running the engine on the plane, make sure everything works operationally without the cowling on there, and then install the cowl, spinner, and then we'll have a good, airworthy airplane. That's the plan. I don't know what the timeline for that plan is. It may not be till March or April. I don't know, but I will have this engine run hopefully long before then anyway. So that's the video for today. SIG Smith Miniplane, old school radio, beautiful Sato 56 engine. Thank you very much, Dave, for that gift and for the opportunity to make even more videos for you all. So thank you all for watching.